Alright, I'm going to show you how to roll a slab without a slab roller. So, what I've done is I cut a pretty big chunk of clay because I'm going to make a pretty big slab. If you're not working with that big of a slab, you don't need to cut that much off of it. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand and right here, like the bottom of my hand, right where it meets my wrist, I'm going to hit down on it like this. And I'm going to hit all around it, keep moving it, flip it, and do the same thing. You can see it's already starting to flatten out, get a little bit bigger. All right, so every time we do this, we're just going to keep flipping it. So a reminder, when you're at home, you want a pretty sturdy table if you can, and you also want to make sure that you don't have anything on your table that is going to spill, because your table is going to shake when you do this. So if you have your fine china on the table, please move it to another table so that does not get ruined. All right, and once you've kind of hit it out a pretty good amount, you're going to take a rolling pin. Other things you can use is like a PVC pipe. If you have like a glass bottle or something like that, basically anything that's a cylinder and that is hard. All right, that will help you to roll it. So I'm just gonna start rolling. You always start close to you and push away. And then I'm gonna flip it again. And I'm gonna do the same thing. And now I'm just gonna turn it like, I don't know, what's that, like 90 degrees maybe? All right, so you always wanna start from the middle, I guess. It doesn't need to be towards you, but start from the middle and push away. If you start over here, it's gonna wanna kind of curl up and ruin your edges there. And then we just keep flipping. So each time when I flip it, I normally flip it like upside down and then to the side. That way I'm not pushing the clay too much in one direction, but it's gonna be pretty even. All right, and sometimes I'll just kind of turn my body to do that too. And I'll keep flipping it. And just keep looking to make sure you're not going too thin. It's a lot easier to roll out your slab thinner than it is to make it thicker again. Flip it again. So mine's kind of getting there. It's getting to the point where I'll probably want to stop pretty soon. And each time I flip it, I can kind of feel it. So that's like a nice good thin slab that I'm now just gonna let sit on the table. If you're working from home, it's best to put it on a couple pieces of newspaper so that the newspaper will take some of the moisture out of the clay. Because while we're leaving it here, so it'll stiffen up and get close to a soft leather hard, but not really quite. But we do not want to start building with it when it's this soft. It will just slump and get ruined. All right, and again, if you don't have a rolling pin, find something round. That will work. All right, thank you. So now we're going to talk about making cups at home. Okay, so right here I have a couple examples of templates that I made. All right, I already put little handles on them so you can get a better idea of what they're gonna look like. But essentially what you're gonna wanna do, so I'm gonna take this apart now. So this is just kind of a little handle, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it just looks like this. It's just kind of like a tapered, really thin slab. And then this, when I unfold it, is gonna be a long, skinny arch. All right, and I will give you the dimensions to each of these as well if you're interested in making something kind of this size. I used a template maker online, and I gave my dimensions, I printed it out, cut it, and that is what I'm going to use today. Okay, so this is the different sizes. So one that is tall here and short here is going to be a tall skinny cup, but the really long skinny pieces of paper are going to be the short fat cups. If that makes sense, because this is how wide around it is. So the longer it is, the wider it is, and the taller it is, the taller it is. All right, so we are going to be playing with some of those today. So I think let's see. So this one was my favorite size for a little teacup. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my slab here and I'm going to try and figure out what the best way is to kind of fit multiple cutouts on here. I don't want to put it straight in the middle because then I'd waste clay, and then I would just have to re-wedge it and put it back into another slab, which kind of just seems like a waste of time. But if I do it like this, I can kind of get the most out of my clay and make a few cups with it, not plates. All right, and then I might flip one like this, because the arch will fit better that way. And I'm just using my fingernail. If you don't have a fingernail, you can always use your needle tool or a pencil or whatever it may be that you want to use. That is totally fine. So I got a good 4 cups out of this slab, which I think is pretty nice. And so I'm going to trace them right on here, and that is where I'm going to cut them out. It's better if you can do your templates on a thicker piece of like cardstock or something, because then you can use them a lot without them getting ruined. This one already can feel like the moisture from the clay, so probably will only be able to use it a couple of times. All right. Now that we have let the clay firm up a bit more, we have all of our templates traced out on here. We are going to take one of our cutting tools. This is an X-Acto knife, but you might be using your needle tool, or if you have fettling knife or something at home. And we are just going to cut out, if anything, you want to cut wider than the template. You don't want to cut it any smaller, because you can always cut more off, but adding more is going to be a lot more difficult. Alright, and once we have all of our slabs cut out, we'll make sure that they're nice and firm. I'm going to be working on this one right here. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decide which part is going to be the rim. So that top part right there is going to be the rim. Oh, looks a little bit uneven there. I might have to cut that just a little bit. And just kind of plan it out, make sure it's good size. So the rim is going to be the wider part. So what I'm going to do, because right now it is a very thick rim, which is not good to drink out of, and it is going to be a teacup, so we want it to be a nice little thin dainty rim. So we're going to sandwich it inside of some newspaper here, and what I'm going to be doing is pressing down right on the rim gently, but with newspaper on both sides of it. And that's going to be just on that top part. I'm not going to do it all the way around, just on the part that you would drink from. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing so it looks the same on both sides. And that will help kind of thin it out. And make it more drinkable. Okay, so now I'm going to show you one other way, or a couple other ways maybe. So now we've realized that this top part is going to be our lip. So you also have a choice to go through and kind of just pinch the top, as long as it's still soft enough to do that. This will give kind of more of a natural handmade feel, because kind of like the pinch pots we did. And it'll add some kind of like variation, but it will still make it thinner, so it's like better to drink from. Okay. And then now we are going to let them dry for a minute, and then we are going to attach them. Alright, and for this next part, we're going to be putting them together and creating bases for them. So you have two things to think about, one of which is, are they firm enough? So if you stand it up like this, does it stand up easily? If it feels like it's falling, then it's probably not ready. And then you want to think about, do you want it to overlap? Like, do you want your clay to overlap like this? Or do you want it to kind of just all blend together and be very smooth on the outside? Make sure your sides kind of match up. So I like it when you can kind of see the overlap in the cup. Okay, so you can kind of see like that. It's not going to be that severe because I am actually going to take some of my newspaper and I am going to soften those ends a little bit. Maybe even use my roller. Kind of soften that a little bit. And so this one, when you think about folding it, and so that's going to be on the inside and that's going to be on the outside. So I'm going to need to score here and here. So I'm going to score a whole bunch on one side. I'm going to flip it over and score here, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of water, right? Just kind of dab it on there. Don't smooth out your scoring marks. And then when I go to put it together, I'm going to give it like a pretty good squish so that those score marks really just kind of come together there. And then if you're leaving the crease showing like this, you just kind of want to make sure that it looks how you want it to, like how you desired for it to look. All right, and then you can kind of just play around, make sure it's a pretty good shape. All right, and so that's one of my little teacups. All right, and now they're all kind of sitting up, I'm going to create the bases for them. Hope that they all fit on the slab, so I don't need to make another one. Again, I just like to trace with my fingers. I have just a teeny bit of a fingernail. It's not a big one. My nails can't be long because of pottery, but just a little bit of a nail to kind of give me that outline. That one up a little. Trying to go a bit too fast here. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm taking the bottom circle. It's not cut perfectly. I'm actually going to cut it more after. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to score on that bottom side. And I'm going to dab the water on the bottom base here. And then when I go to put this on, I'm going to hold it by the sides like this. Right? And I'm just kind of going to wiggle it in there. So you don't want to push down too much because then it will get pretty, like, it'll kind of bulge out down at the bottom here. So you really want to like hold it tight and just like gently wiggle it on there. All right, and then we'll cut those after. So now we have all of our cups. All right, so I have my 4 cups that are made. now I'm going to be making handles. So for this, as I showed you before, my little template that fit nicely with my paper template in order to determine the size of my handles. Okay, and essentially most handles are smaller on one side and larger on the other side, so they're kind of just, we call it tapered. So this clay is still pretty wet, but you want it to be pretty wet so that when it bends, it's not going to crack. All right, and then you have the option again of either using newspaper for this or to use your 2 fingers. So 2 of these I pinched the top of to make it thinner, and 2 of them I rolled it. So I'm gonna do the same thing with the handles and switch them. So for the rolled lips, I'm gonna put a pinched handle. That way they kind of go hand in hand better. All right, and then we kind of decide where we're going to put our handles. So I look at it from the side like this. I decide that's good. I'm just gonna cut off a little extra here because it comes out a little bit too much, I think. And then I'm going to score it onto the cup. I'm actually gonna put it on this side because I'm a righty and that's how I like them to look. Dab my water on there. Then I'm gonna hold the cup with one hand and hold the handle right at the base and then just kind of wiggle it on there. Squish it to the side of the cup and then pull that handle up and then smooth out. Make sure you can't see any of those score marks anymore and just make sure it's on there nice and tight. And then once you have your handle on, something that we do to make our handles look better is you can pull up at the top. So I'm pulling up like right here, and then I can pull out a little bit. And then I'm just gonna go through and smooth everything out around where I touch the handle. And then you have a little teacup.